Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming this afternoon, and especially on short notice. As you can see, I'm joined by Council President Darrell Clark, Councilman for the 5th District, and a number of City Council members. And I want to thank them as a group. Earlier today, I was in a meeting and started reciting a number of names of folks, missed someone, and I've been hearing about it for the entire day. So rather than run that risk with City Council, I want to thank everyone for being here. Don't want to miss anybody, but we have a wonderful turnout here. We have a couple of announcements. I'll make some brief remarks. Council President Clark will make some remarks, and then what we'd like to do is take any questions that you have about the particular announcement. If you have other members of the press, if you have other questions for me about issues that are not a part of this press announcement, I'd be glad to talk to you after today's announcement, and we can do that probably around the corner. I'm pleased to be here with the Council President and the members of City Council who made themselves very quickly available. Laura Shore, our Chief Education Officer, Alan Greenberger, Deputy Mayor for Economic Development, John Grady, President of PIDC, Fran Burns, who is here on behalf of Dr. Height, who could not be here because he is traveling. Today I'm pleased to announce that about an hour and a half or so ago, I signed City Council Bill number 130577. I know many of you may not necessarily carry your council calendar around with you, so I'll tell you what it is. It's the transfer ordinance that authorizes the movement of $50 million from the city's grants revenue fund to the general fund. I'm also pleased to announce that the school district, PIDC, and the City Commerce Department are going to work aggressively and in a most cooperative and collegial fashion through an operating agreement to move forward on the sale of surplus or closed properties owned presently by the Philadelphia School District. PIDC and the school district will sign an agreement that will provide that the district will work with PIDC and the Commerce Department in their respective areas of expertise in marketing and the selling of these properties. The Commerce Department will also continue to provide its professional staff in an effort to market the school properties as quickly, as expeditiously, and for the highest possible price as possible. The school district will post on next Wednesday by 12 noon an inventory of all school district properties for sale and a request for expressions of interest from any interested buyer or buyers with the goals of selling its properties for the highest return in a transparent and efficient manner in keeping with its amended adaptive sale and reuse policy as approved by the School Reform Commission. This policy provides for substantial community input prior to any sales because we want these properties to be repurposed for viable uses, again, as quickly as possible. Any entity or person who is interested in purchasing a school district property should contact the school district and consult their website. So whether they want to buy one property, 2 properties, 8 properties, or possibly all of them, that will be the place to go. As sales occur, all proceeds will go to the Philadelphia School District. Of course, we hope to realize actually more than at least $61 million in sales this year in order to keep the school district on track for what it had already budgeted or for dollars that had already been promised. But, and we think that this is not likely, but we have to anticipate for worst case scenarios. But if we're not as successful in quickly marketing these properties, then we now have, through the council transfer ordinance, the funds to make the district whole in any case. And I want to thank, again, Council President Clark, all the members of City Council for their leadership on this particular matter. I'm also pleased to announce that the city will shortly send $60 million in already budgeted funding to the Philadelphia School District instead of waiting until the usual time period when they would receive these dollars, which would generally be next May or June. We're advancing these funds to help the district with cash flow issues that we anticipate will occur in the next few months. Again, these are not technically new dollars. These are dollars that the district would get anyway. It's just from a timing standpoint, we would normally send those dollars at the latter part of the current fiscal year. We're advancing those dollars so that they can have those funds right now. The agreement that Council President Clark and I have reached accomplishes a number of positive outcomes. It begins the process of selling surplus properties with the support of experts in the field from PIDC and the Commerce Department and any other relevant agencies in the government, immediately involved in the sales process and puts the money in the school district's budget where it's needed. This proposal also protects the city's general fund, enhances the school district's cash flow position, and it further provides assurance that the school district will in fact receive the already pledged $50 million that Council President Clark and I made that commitment back in mid-August. With those remarks, I'm going to ask the Council President to share his thoughts, but I want to thank him for his presence, for our conversations, all of which have been very, very helpful in leading to today. Council President.
Thank you very much, Mayor. First, I'd like to thank my colleagues who are here today. It probably would be the entire 17, although we do have a quorum, but it was relatively short. We're in public, so whatever we say, it's in public. Councilman Squilla, Heenan, Blackwell, Green, Councilman Majority Leader Curtis Jones, Whip, Londo Reynolds Brown, Councilwoman Jonas Sanchez, Greenlee, and Councilman O. I want to thank you guys again for being here today, and thank you for your continued support in this very important initiative. I like to take time, something that I don't always do, is to take time to thank the staff of City Council, not necessarily in the Council President's office, but inclusive of them, but all of the staffs, for all of the council members for their very aggressive and good work that they put forth in making sure that this proposal became a reality. During the course of the last couple of months, they've done a lot of things. I'm sure some of you have seen some of the presentations, some of them relatively colorful with the pretty pictures and all of the nuances associated with our press conferences, but that requires a lot of work, and I want to thank them for their great work. Second, I want to thank my colleagues in City Council who not only provided strong support for this initiative, but actually went out and solicited and found purchasers, potential purchasers of property, and I want to thank them. You guys did a great job. You went out and you very aggressively looked at providing opportunities for the school district to gain significant revenue. So I want to thank you all publicly very much for that. Second, I want to say that I'm actually happy, and although we early on in this process pretty much believed that there would be some level of interest, I must say that the level of interest has actually surprised me, so much so that not only do we have individuals who are interested in express interest in a single property, we actually have multiple offers for the entire school district portfolio. So it puts us in a very enviable position as it relates to the real estate world. So I'm pretty excited about the possibilities. I'm glad that we have reached an agreement so we can proceed, because I think all of us would agree, and some of you in the audience would agree, that we have been doing this back and forth far too long. It is time for us to put a period at the end of the sentence. Mayor, right? I'm sure you agree with me, sir. I do. And we need to move on to longer-term funding scenarios, which will be a little more complicated, but clearly much more needed, because at the end of the day, both what we're experiencing today and announcing today is all about the children. It's not about us, it's about those children. And we will be pivoting very quickly to the state and to other interested parties in ensuring that we get a longer-term revenue solution. What I also like to say, as a part of this conversation, I don't believe, in all honesty, even if we come up with the short-term revenue and we come up with long-term revenue, that we will be in a position for these children to receive an adequate education, right, without some significant changes in the way we do business. So I would like to see all of us, in a very aggressive and comprehensive way, talk about some of the strategies associated with the way that people get educated, because I think that's most important. We can put all the dollars on the table, but if we don't provide, at the end of the day, an adequate education, we really haven't achieved much. So I just want to say thank all of you. We will continue to be very aggressive and diligent working with the school district and the administration of making sure that we reach our goal of, at the end of the day, providing a quality education for every child in the school district of the city of Philadelphia. Thank you.
So with that, for at least members of the press, if you have any questions, we'd be glad to try to answer them about this particular announcement. Yes.
Mayor, would you describe this as a compromise between you and the council president?
Yes. I think, first and foremost, the president and I, on this particular issue and a number of others, not that you would necessarily read them anywhere, actually agree on a bunch of things. We both agreed that we need to get these properties out in the marketplace as quickly as possible. We both agree that we need to get as high a value for these properties as quickly as possible. We agree that we always have to be mindful of any potential impact, certainly on the city's general fund. The president is, I think he would generally describe himself as fairly fiscally conservative and possibly liberal on some other issues. We share that in common. And so I think that getting the properties out, the expressions of interest that have already been out in the marketplace, and I think by next week there'll be even more, would indicate that we should be able to exceed certainly the anticipated, at least bottom threshold of $61 million, 50 that we'd already committed, $11 million was already built into the school district's budget. We think we exceed that, and if we do that in short order, no challenge to the city's general fund. District gets its money, properties out of their inventory, hopefully repurposed as quickly as possible. And so I think it represents what, at least at the local level, is a good example of compromise. And there might be some other governments at other higher levels, at least technically higher levels, that might benefit from a compromise approach. Tommy. I think the council president was trying to be kind and gentle and subtle, but he touched on it in a different kind of way. We're also both in agreement that there should in fact be a split of sales tax proceeds. I've said that about 500,000 times before. The concern, of course, is without the cigarette tax, the district would actually suffer as a result of solely a split in sales tax between the city and the school district. And so it is eminently important. And so, again, as the president mentioned, and I'm sure he was at least talking about this part, when we talk about turning much of our attention to Harrisburg, it should be cigarette tax, split in the sales, and a long-term stable student-weighted education funding formula, not just for Philadelphia, but for all 500 school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and other initiatives that we can take on. But those three, it seems to me, are right in front of us. They're quite critical, and we need action in that regard. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, one of the things that we found throughout this conversation, particularly with members of the General Assembly, that in some instances, and for those animal lovers, don't take it the wrong way. There's sometimes, don't do it. You say we got to say that. To do something to a cat. I think you all know what I'm talking about. So there are opportunities, we believe, that lie within the General Assembly and working with members of the Philly delegation and the local legislature and the administration on coming up with strategies. We believe the cigarettes is probably the one that should happen. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tax that was supported by the mayor, forwarded to us, 17-0 vote, which is, frankly speaking, pretty good, right? But I think that, there may be other opportunities to look at other things. But at the end of the day, we're continuing to look for an enhanced level of support from the state, because we have all said, including the mayor and all of the council members, that city council cannot be the only entity that continues to fund the school district, particularly since it's the state's primary responsibility to fund public education. So as we go through this process, interacting with the state, we hope that we can talk about a number of things that might enhance the revenue sources for the school district of the city of Philadelphia, and we're prepared to have those conversations.
There's a gentleman behind. Did you have your hand up earlier?
Yeah, Council President, what I was curious about is why do you think there really is an entity, developers really interested in these properties? What gives you such confidence?
Well, as I said earlier in the conversation, that a number of council members, because particularly those district council people who deal on a daily basis with things in their district and happen to have a number of schools that have been vacant for sometimes 2 years, sometimes upwards of 30 years, actually, when this conversation started in a very public way, they actually unsolicited started getting letters of expressions of interest. We received, and I'm sure it was reported in the newspaper, that there was actually an entity that offered to purchase the entire portfolio. Since then, there's actually been 2 more that have expressed an interest in purchasing the entire portfolio, which is why I believe the school district opted to put everything on the website. Personally, and the school district might believe this, and I don't want to speak for the mayor because he's here, he probably would be comfortable with this. If somebody came in and in a way, in a process that people felt comfortable with, bought every last vacant school and worked with the council and the administration on repurposing those schools, we could move on and do other things. Because the reality is, a lot of these buildings are in neighborhoods and creating significant blighted conditions, and we need to really repurpose those buildings, not only for the purposes of fixing up the neighborhoods, but actually for having longer-term revenue generation. We showed at the earlier presentation on our press conferences a series of repurposed buildings, and those buildings are actually producing tax revenue as we speak. So from the long-term perspective, we actually, if we get them back online, we can actually generate more revenue for the city and the school district. So we're really confident that this is going to happen.
Mayor,
Mike?
given that your administration testified several times that the council plan is not feasible, I'm wondering why you changed your position regarding this. The Commerce Director testified. We don't see that collection of properties out there that could move quickly enough to satisfy that kind of money. Do you have a different perspective on that?
Well, Mike, let me say a couple things. First, what I laid out today is that the school district is putting all their properties up on their website. And at the moment, we are not, the city government, purchasing those properties. They're out, they will be out in the marketplace. That was the discussion at that time. Things have evolved over time, and I think we've arrived in a place where expeditiously getting them up on the website, aggressive marketing, and the use of additional professionals, which I know the Council President and many of the members are very comfortable with, PIDC and the Commerce Department. The numerous expressions of interest that have come in, as the President just remarked, since the time of that hearing. So I think that this is a process that has evolved. The landscape has changed to some extent, come together with a better understanding of what each is trying to accomplish and are now working in partnership to make this go forward. So, I mean, I think, I know that the sausage making, for you guys is, the most intriguing. For me, I like what's on the plate, the end result. And what's the end result is we're moving forward, we have a process, we have agreement, and that, for me, at the end of the day, is what really matters the most in this. There's always, with big ideas and big issues, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of complications, et cetera, et cetera. We're here at this moment, and this is the best possible thing that we could be doing.
Part of your opposition was that at least some monies were already budgeted in the school district by your plan
Right.
for these properties.
Right.
But isn't this that you're now agreeing to at odds with that? Isn't that?
No, it's not, because you know, Mike, that the number I used today is not only did we talk about the $50 million that both the President and I had made a commitment to, but also I've already said in today's statement that this year, $11 million of that overall 28, which is in their 5-year plan, 11 of it was in this year. And so that's why I'm suggesting that our goal has to be at a minimum threshold of $61 million in total sales. If you meet that target, the district is completely whole. We've kept our commitment on the 50, and it takes care of the 11 that's in this year's budget. And going forward, I mean, you know, it deals with the rest of their financial picture going forward. I think if we have a strong response, all these expressions of interest, all the various entities that have stepped up, I think the real issue now is up on the site, get your expression of interest in, go open the doors, check them out, see what's going on, put your money on the table, let's rock and roll. Last question.
I wonder if you or President could speak to buildings that are being repurposed, how many are being repurposed for schools, and how many are being repurposed for residential properties?
Well, I have no idea at the moment. I'm not speaking for the President. I don't know. You know, I think as this moves on, as the sites are up on, as the buildings are up on the site, as expressions come in and people start to indicate what it is that they want to do, we'll start to get a better feel for that. But at the moment, I mean, I have no idea what someone might want to do with a school building. In some instances, certainly given location, and condition of building, some expressions of interest about a building may not be for it being a school. They may not even want the building at that point. It may be really more about location and the real estate and the ability to do something at that particular site because it may be adjacent to other properties that a potential buyer may have.
Well, I mean, I concur with the mayor in terms of all of the buildings. Obviously, some of the expressions of interest do represent the potential to do a school, be it a charter or some other institutional use. But that's probably at this time no more than 12 letters that are very specific in terms of what they want. But the entire inventory, we're just not clear at this time. So I concur with that.
Thanks a lot.